Welcome to Talent Tuesday. My name is Ken Schmitt, founder and CEO of TurningPoint Executive Search, and today I'm here with Paula Cleveland, Manager of Talent Acquisition Operations for Mitchell International. Thanks for being here, Paula.
Of course, thank you for inviting me.
So today we're going to talk about the new law that California just passed called AB 168. It's all about the new salary history law where a lot of organizations are no longer allowed to ask candidates or prospective hires about their salary history. So why don't you talk a little bit about your role with Mitchell International?
Sure. As the Manager of Talent Acquisition Operations, I'm responsible for compliance within our talent acquisition group, university relations, our sourcing strategy and budget, immigration, and then the administration of our applicant tracking system and our talent acquisition coordinators. Right. Last year we closed almost 350 positions.
Quite a few, okay.
Of regular hires and internal transfers.
Okay, very good, very good. So how do you see the new law with salary history not being allowed to be asked about? How do you see that changing your internal processes?
We were asking for salary histories previously during the screening process with our talent acquisition partners and candidates. The biggest change is just going to be that we have decided to go forth with a strategy of identifying what our target range is going to be and presenting that range to the candidate and basically asking them if that's sufficient.
And what about in terms of kind of training? What have you had to do to make sure that your hiring managers at the company are up to speed and compliant?
We have, I guess, gone sort of with a soft launch. We've reached out to all of our current managers that have positions open, explained the new law, what they can and cannot say. I think most of our managers were pretty good about letting the talent acquisition partners have that conversation to begin with. But we do have some managers who do a little bit of a do-it-yourself model. So we made sure that they knew what the new law was. And then we're just making sure that it's part of our intake process when a new position opens up, so that we're really talking through it so that managers understand that it's not just base salary, but it's also bonuses and options and benefits and time off. And it's kind of the whole package because a lot of that stuff can come up during casual conversation.
Right, sure. And so if it does come up, with a candidate volunteering that information, what are you doing? I know for us on the recruiting side, we're not asking about it either. We're asking other questions kind of in general about their target compensation. But if they do happen to volunteer it, we're documenting it, but we're saying, volunteered by candidate, and then in quotes with the amount.
Right.
But how are you guys handling that?
We've actually decided to not document anything that the candidate says, and not sharing that with the hiring managers. We feel like there could be some risk in having it documented and then trying to prove later that it didn't influence our decision with our final offer. So one thing that we are doing, if a candidate is above the range and they're not interested, we're categorizing it. If the position is a level 2, but they're better suited at a level 3, then we'll just put that in the notes. This candidate would be, salary expectations would be a better fit with level 3.
Okay.
But we've stopped documenting salary completely. We also had to make sure to take it off our applications,
right.
So I had to remove it from, make sure our background check company wasn't trying to verify that information.
Right, sure.
They took it off their forms, and so kind of just had to make sure from a logistics standpoint that it was all removed.
Very good. How are you handling it when candidates are asking you what the salary range is for the role they're looking at?
That's a great question. So within our compensation structure and philosophy, we actually have very broad ranges for all of our roles. They overlap sort of accordingly so that we have flexibility for internal moves and sort of internal development. But the law states that you have to tell them. So we are, our process at this point is to disclose the full salary range if they ask. Explain a little bit about why we have broad ranges, explain our compensation philosophy, and then sort of wrap back around with that target range and ask them again if they're okay with that expectation.
Very good. And this is, are you applying the same process to all candidates, all employees, no matter what state they're in?
Yeah, we have employees in all 50 states. Our major hubs are here in San Diego, Irvine, and then Utah and in Texas as well. But since we're mostly in California, when something happens in California, we treat all employees like California employees. Right. So we're trying to be consistent across the organization.
Well, it seems like there's a trend out there where at some point this will probably be a national law anyway. It might be a couple of years down the road, but it's 8 states now. It might be 10, 15 in the next couple of years.
It just gets confusing. We have managers who have employees in several offices, and so we just want to make sure that it's crisp and clean for
Right,
them.
exactly right, and consistent. Yeah. And then finally, so the goal of this whole new law, right, salary history prohibition, is to figure out a way to narrow the gender pay gap. So what are your thoughts about how that will impact it?
I love the transparency of it, and I actually think it's going to help. Before this role, I've recruited for probably 7 to 8 years in my career, and I learned very quickly that most women don't negotiate their offers. Even though we talk about it, even though it's part of every professional development seminar that you go to as a woman, you should negotiate your salary. More often than not, they just accept that first offer. And so, you talk to two candidates with very similar backgrounds, and if one's a male and one's a female, she'll often be in professional level positions 10 to 15K lower, and it's disheartening. So I am actually really excited about it, and I have hopes that it will at least take some steps towards closing that gap.
Yeah, it'll be great to see 3 or 4 years from now, as we hopefully start to see that gap narrow even more, so we can say, oh yeah, I remember the day when X, Y, Z changed.
Yeah.
And hopefully that was one of the reasons that the impact took hold. Well, thank you, appreciate it.
Of course.
It was great seeing you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next month on Talent Tuesday.